For documentary filmmakers, it's crucial to have gear that's not only reliable, but light and easy to travel with. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through 3 pieces of kit that I've leaned on in 2025 to help me move faster, lighter, and more efficiently as a documentary filmmaker. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Austin Meyer. I'm a documentary filmmaker, National Geographic Explorer, and on this channel, I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. The first piece of kit that I upgraded in 2025 to optimize for portability is my audio setup for interviews, specifically my boom pole setup. Up until a few months ago, the way I set up my boom pole for interviews was like this. I had an Impact turtle-based C-stand, which was like 25 pounds, a boom pole from K-Tech with an internal XLR cord, a grip head, a boom pole holder, and sandbags. The setup is high quality and does the job well. However, it's so damn heavy, especially with the C-stand. Then back in April, I was directing a shoot for JP Morgan with Only People Studio, and we worked with a DP and friend of ours named Marcos Rocha. And while Marcos was building out the interview set, one piece of his kit really caught my eye. It was this super lightweight boom pole from a company I had never heard of before called Film Devices. That night, I looked up the company, reached out, and asked if they would be open to sending me their carbon fiber travel boom pole kit. I didn't guarantee that I would make a video reviewing their product. I didn't let them see this script or this video ahead of time, but I said, hey, I'm a run and gun documentary filmmaker, interested in the product, and if you believe in your product enough to send it to me without a guaranteed video in return, then I'd be happy to put it through the paces and see if it would bring value to my audience. Well, I can confidently say that after putting it to the test on commercial and documentary shoots across the US over the course of the past 2 months, this is a product I can recommend, and it's helped me, which is why I'm mentioning it in this video. And here's why I can recommend it. Same function, less weight. The carbon fiber boom pole kit from Film Devices weighs 12 ounces. Compare that to my previous boom pole from K-Tech, which weighed 22 ounces. The boom pole holder weighs less than 10 ounces versus my previous setup, which weighed almost 3 times that much. And because of all that, now I can leave behind the 25-pound C-stand and instead set the boom pole up on this Matthews reverse stand that weighs just 3 pounds. This stand does not come with the boom pole kit, but I already had a couple of these, and the team at Film Devices said that this would be a great one to pair with their boom pole kit. So the boom pole from Film Devices is 20 inches long and extends out to 67 inches. Of course, with any boom pole extended like that, you run the risk of your stand toppling over. And so to address that issue, when I'm flying to shoots, I now pack this. This is the E-Image Empty Saddle Water Bag. So instead of traveling with a bag of sand, I either fill this with water or I just put my backpack full of equipment on the stand's legs. And there you have it. Along with the microphone and the XLR cord, that is my boom pole setup for documentary shoots. So for those keeping score at home, my old setup was over 28 pounds plus sandbags. And now when I need to stay light and mobile, my setup is just over 8 pounds, including an empty water bag. And it definitely makes a difference. The second piece of kit that I've tried to optimize for portability in 2025 is my interview lighting kit. I am a big fan of my Aperture 600D key light with the light dome softbox. However, for some shoots, it's just too big, too bulky. So I started to ask myself this question: could I create a 3-light package that fits into one suitcase that isn't a nightmare to roll around and carry? And this is what I came up with. P.S. and a quick caveat, I have no idea how applicable this is for all of you who are watching because I think some of the equipment is discontinued, but hey, I'm just sharing the truth of what I've been doing and finding helpful. And I just don't buy a lot of new gear, so I use a lot of old gear that I have already. But the challenge remains the same, which is paring down equipment for portability, not needing to have the biggest, most heavy-duty gear for every shoot. So when I was putting together this kit, the place I started from was this case that I already had from Think Tank called the Video Rig 18. Inside of that, I had the first light I ever purchased, which is the Light Panels Astra 6 Bicolor, which, by the way, I recently saw on B&H for like 55% off. And to learn more why that might be a good light for you, check out the video I made below in the description. Now, the really nice thing here is that the light panel fits like a glove inside the Video Rig 18 case. And because it doesn't require an external power bank, the unit is fully ready to roll right when I take it out of the case. But I did have all this leftover space in the case, which in the past I was packing with things like grip equipment. Essentially, up until recently, I would have my Aperture 600D in its own suitcase, then this Astra light panel in its own suitcase, and then some tube lights in another suitcase. Then, in the spirit of paring everything down, getting more efficient, I reached out to Light Panels and asked if they had a light that had the same physical footprint as the Astra, but added some more features. That's when the folks over at Light Panels sent me the Gemini Hard Light, and it's been a great addition. Almost like this think tank case was made for it. I can fit the Astra and Gemini right next to each other while also having room to slide one of these 12-inch tube lights from Q-Lion, which I often use as a hair light. Now, speaking of portability, I know that there are lights that have a smaller footprint than these Light Panels ones. For example, the key light I'm using right now here for YouTube is the Amaran F21X Light Mat. However, what I've been enjoying about my self-assembled Light Panels kit is just how quickly I can assemble it. I don't need to set up or plug in any power banks. I don't need to build out the little brackets that provide a light mat structure. I just get to set, I open up the suitcase, I take out the light, I plug it in, and we're ready to roll. It's so simple. That's why Light Panels are such an industry standard in the worlds of TV news and journalism. But with just a little bit of planning and intention, these lights for TV news can absolutely be adapted for documentary cinema. For proof beyond me, just look at one of the most cinematic docuseries of the past decade called The Trade. When asked about their lighting setup for that show, DP Matt Porwall said, "A Light Panels Astra bicolor was what we used for our interviews." Boom. There you go. Now, in terms of the soft boxes for this kit, I am able to fit this soft box for the Astra in the case. It's made by a company called DOP Choice. Then for the Gemini softbox, I either use this little dome diffusion it came with, if I'm using as a hair light or something, or a larger softbox that I keep in a different case if I'm using it as a key light for interviews. If you want more details on any of these lights, I'm sure you can find detailed descriptions of them and breakdowns on the specs over on the company's YouTube channel. I'm just here to share how they have benefited me over the past 6 months in a very practical sense as I work as a full-time documentary filmmaker. Whether or not you look into getting some of these lights for yourself, the takeaway here is that you don't always need the biggest key light with the biggest softbox. In fact, it's often overkill. See what you can do to pare down and build a kit that is simple, efficient, and portable. In fact, if you have really efficient setups for your lights and cases, please drop the details in the comments so that folks who have similar equipment to you can get ideas for how to do it. All right, and the last piece of kit that I've been leaning on to keep things light and nimble is the Think Tank Press Pass 20. Let me show you how this waist belt works and why it's been great on a number of recent run and gun documentary shoots, like last weekend when I was filming at the historic ultramarathon, the Western States 100. So this past weekend while I was filming at the Western States 100, I was constantly jumping in and out of cars, running to aid stations, chasing an athlete, and I was constantly tasked with switching lenses between my 70 to 200 and my 24 to 70 or 24 to 105. So, if I was running and gunning with my Sony FX6 setup, I needed something that would allow me to get out on the move and go where I needed to go, but also stay adaptable to be changing lenses, changing batteries, getting new people mic'd up. And instead of bringing a backpack, what I did was I just brought this waist belt, which I tied around my waist. Now, this is pretty typical. If I have on my A-cam, my 24 to 105 wide lens there. Then in my pouch, I got my 70 to 200 lens right there. I have extra battery for the FX6. I have my lav mics in here. And then I have tape for the lav mics. And then I also have a little rocket blower. And then zip that up, tie it around my waist. And then if I need to get anything out of it, super easy. Boom, boom. Switch out. Up, need someone to get mic'd up. Take out the mic them up. Put it back in. Boom. Switch it around. And we're going. The waist belt has been a huge upgrade for me in terms of keeping light and nimble, just because it allows me to just bring those essentials and leave the big backpack behind. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy this one that gets into my full run and gun kit from the perspective of staying light and flexible. Cameras, mics, tripods, cinesaddle, and more. Mac and I will see you next time. Until then, go out and tell some stories.